All right, 7 PM, we'll call the October Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. First item will be to approve the August minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Abstain.
opposed? Okay. 3 ayes, 0 noes, and 1 abstain.
All right, next item will be the staff report. What you got, Jack?
I'm gonna try to keep my portion of it brief, and then we'll ask you all a couple of questions on how you want to proceed, but we are currently at 15 building permits since January for the calendar year, but for our financial budget year, we're at 82. We had 64 or whatever, 60, whatever that number is. My math isn't working very good. We had 67 like in November that dropped. Most of it was the townhomes down south. And they all came through at once in a short period of time. So that's what happened. And then since they didn't lay those out over a longer period of time, that's kind of why we only have the 15 other ones. So I wanted you to be aware of both of those datas. Construction is going on still all over town. And I'm forgetting the name of now the 353, but it's got a name, Smithville Shops, maybe, something. If you haven't noticed, demolition started on it. And the buildings are, I think, gone. The front buildings, all the ones they're tearing down, they're down anyway. So once they get that hauled off, they'll tear out all the building pad stuff so they can start working on the buildings and completely redo a bigger parking lot. So that's going on all right now. The last bit I wanted to cover is on the agenda. I have listed the Employment Center Overlay Consultant as part of the staff report. So she could present basically what she's presented here. We also have Sean, who's Sean Duke is also with the consultant. It may be better, more consistent if we, instead of having her presentation during the staff report, to have it under the public hearing so that I don't have to do all that rigmarole about here's the documents and all that. They'll go in directly when she presents her presentation to you of the final changes based upon your direction 2 months ago. And then lastly on the agenda, items 10 and 11 need to be bumped up at least 1 month until we get word back from Missouri Department of Transportation on the traffic study. They're obligated to, or we're obligated to get them to chime in because any access points are on a state highway, so they have jurisdiction. They would be the ones issuing any permits to allow those accesses, so they have to weigh in on this. The communication and timing has been problematic, Bob, would that be the best way? It's been problematic. So we're hoping to get that resolved in the next couple of weeks. I don't know if the priority engineers have taken care of theirs, made contact with all the new MoDOT people, but that's why that has to be bumped. It's not ready to be presented until that's done. So other than that, that's all the staff report I have. If you have questions, sorry.
I do have a question, Jack.
Yes.
I've noticed some activity up to the old newer gas station up here. Do you have any input on that or anything to say?
Yeah, and we've issued some permits. They had a different engineer come out and look at the wall, so they had work done on the wall again. They're just cleaning it up to open it again. It's been closed now for almost 2 years, I think. Not quite, I guess. It opened, it got sold again. stayed open during those timeframes. And then the last company that had it had all those problems statewide with all their businesses. And this company now bought it from them. And haven't seen the inside, but they've certainly reinvested on the outside, painting it, cleaning it up. Being that it was a 3-year-old building, it didn't make wasn't
you.
needed, but they did it, so it's their building.
Do we need motions to move this stuff around or to?
You can do it at the time it comes up and just postpone it for a month, or you can do it as, as a housekeeping at the very beginning, either one,
And then
however.
we can also move the consultant presentation to item 4.
Yes, we'll just move it up.
Okay. Does anyone like make a motion to do that? Okay, so we're going to move that.
We're gonna move the consultant to the public hearing and postpone 10 and 11.
Second. All right, let's vote.
Terry,
Yes.
Melissa,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
4-0.
That's good. Next item will be the public hearing for 169 South Employment Center overlay. At this time, the public hearing is open. Do we have any comments?
Yes, we do. Doug Cercioni.
Actually,
Good evening. My name is Doug Cercioni. I live at 728 Spellman Drive. I'm reviewing the packet entries for the South Employment District. 2 things that caught my attention. One was from omission. The second one was maybe not enough detail. The omission I may be jumping the gun on, but it made reference to green spaces and what those may include. The thing that caught my eye is currently that property is over half very mature trees, decades old, and a project of this nature can level those in a heartbeat, as we've seen with some other projects in the city. I think some people have mentioned in the past where with those mature trees, maybe setting aside, a good an acre or more of the mature trees that then could become a park area with mature trees versus having to wait for trees to grow up. Potentially could be a dog park in that area for the people that eventually would live there. Just a couple ideas that popped in my head when I was looking at that. The piece of the omission that caught my eye more than anything else, with this being on the west side of 169, southbound 169 we know is the original 169 highway with its hills and valleys. The northern entrance for this lines up with Amory. The southern entrance lines up with 136 and another one about halfway in between. The entrance at Amory is definitely beyond just the hillside, so it'll be a totally blind turn into there or anybody coming out. I didn't see any reference to potential turn lanes off 169 South into this development. The one at 136 is a little more open line of sight, so that one may not be as bad, but the 2 northern ones could be questionable. Additionally, with this being on the west side, what's that mean for the crossovers at 136 and Amory for traffic getting across to go into this? As I said, I may be jumping the gun because I know with this being 169, MoDOT has to have their take on it for anything that eventually goes in place, and we'll have their input into that as to what may or may not be required, whether that be traffic lights or turn lanes, et cetera. But I wanted to bring that up to the committee and just, like I said, push them, give my ideas that may be passed along. Thank you.
thank you. And Jack, I'm sorry I skipped you first. You wanna?
No, that's fine. I'm gonna turn the tables over to Julie so she can go through. She made the presentation with Sean and gosh, it's been in August, sorry. We just approved the minutes, I guess. And at that meeting, there were several comments that she has incorporated the recommended changes. So I'll let Julie take over and she can make a presentation of how this process has gotten from where it was to where it is. And then we'll go from there. Julie, whenever you're ready.
I believe. Am I sharing my screen? Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Just yes, again, we were down in August and presented and got some feedback and have incorporated those change. But I just wanted to run through a few of those slides again, just because this is a public hearing and before it was just a work session. So this is focusing on that 169 South Employment Center overlay area. This was an area that was identified in your comprehensive plan um, for overlay, zoning overlay, and also for some intensification and a diverse set of uses, multifamily, commercial, mixed use, some flex uses. This development, again, will bring a new mix of uses in and everything that comes in. And maybe this will kind of address some of the comments from the gentleman just a minute ago. Every development will come in and they'll have to have a concept plan. So, and this none of the regulations that are in this ordinance affect the subdivision review process. So those turning access points and traffic issues, those will be addressed later when those processes come in, when there's more of a real development proposal. This is kind of just setting the stage for more general what can be allowed and how you can develop it. This area, like I said, some of the uses that were mentioned in the comprehensive plan and chosen during the public engagement process was there was interest in residential above commercial, so kind of those mixed use developments, possibly some more office, tech industry, some medium to high density, more of that cottage or micro industrial, if you will. So some uses that and uses you may or may not have in Smithville. Some of them I know you don't have. And then also being developed in a manner which is also unique and new to Smithville. This is just kind of a area map and some drive time approximations just to show you that this area really is in a good location for future development and to attract some of those newer uses. So what is a zoning overlay? It is another set of regulations. So the land, when it comes in, it will be zoned, whatever the city reviews and approves. So you'll still have those base R1s, 2, 3, B1, 2 zoning will exist, and then you'll have this extra layer of regulation is what we're writing into this overlay district, the 169 South overlay. We looked at early on, we had a discussion with staff and with public engagement. What kind of zoning do you think would fit this area best, or what is kind of the vision? You have the standard zoning, which you typically see today, which prioritizes the use. You have larger setbacks, you have parking requirements on site, things like that. Form-based allows for a more diverse siting of buildings and parking, an increased density, and it really looks at the way things are built over what the use is. Based on conversations, it was decided that maybe a hybrid zoning code, so both kind of a combination of both of those standards would work well in this area, given the type of development you want to see, just the general nature of Smithville, the topography of the site, just many, many kind of factors in that standard. August 26th, was our first kind of public engagement. We had a online meeting with P&Z and the Economic Development Committee. They were able to do some kind of live poll voting and then we also had an opportunity, you can see on the right, they could leave comments. And then people could agree or disagree with those. So we did live polling, but then we also let them sit on it for a couple weeks and left it open for them to come back in and kind of digest and process the information and then provide input. On February 7th, we opened the website to the public. Similar types of questions were asked. There were images that were example images of different types of residential commercial development that they kind of get a feel for what the public of Smithville, the Smithville citizens were interested in. And then in August, we started drafting the code and came down to do the work session with the Plan and Zoning Commission. One of the things that's addressed in that ordinance is residential. So it does allow for a variety of types of residential. You'll still be able to do your kind of standard single family, low to medium, low density development. We really envision that to occur more along the northern and western border of the site, since there's, especially to the north where there's already some existing residential development there. And then as you move to more of the commercial area, you'll see this more intense mixed use, whether it's, you know, on the ground level and multi-story, some live work where you can have your business within your home, and also the vertical mixed use with residential over commercial. And then it also allows for some kind of pocket neighborhood development, if you will, and that's where it's going to let you get your single family homes or duplexes a little closer together, but it has some shared open space requirements. Shared in the sense that, you know, not necessarily an HOA, but something that is kind of part of that little enclave or cove, if you want. And there's a couple examples on the right-hand side. Now, again, I should say these are the types of development that the code was written to allow. It doesn't mean it's all or nothing, or it has to be one of these. So just keep that in mind. Again, the mixed use development, when we had public engagement, we asked, you know, how many stories seemed reasonable, questions like that. And so they were able to vote on which one of these images appealed to them. And then also how dense. There were some images on density regardless of the use type. You know, this bottom left-hand picture is obviously not going to be what develops there, but it's just an example of a dense mixed use, high density area. And then you have two other examples here that may or may not fit future development. And again, the code is written in a way, the ordinance is written in a way that it would allow for some of the, not a typical pad site like you might see with when you think of a pad site with like a big box store or something like that, but you know, but there still may be a smaller commercial building or office building on its own lot with some parking. Again, the site really, the topography, as was just mentioned in the public comments a couple minutes ago, there are a lot of mature trees. You know, our scope of our work did not include any type of site review or site analysis. We just really were looking at the types of uses and drafting the zoning ordinance. So there was a couple images on the public engagement that included, you know, the orange is the medium density, red would be your high density and commercial, green would be your open space, and yellow single family or lower density. And so there was a couple images like this that had these in different arrangements. This was the preferred one, which I think makes sense because we definitely want to preserve as much of this green space as we can, whether it's active or passive, right? Passive is just maybe let alone preserve the tree canopy, for example. Passive might be, or excuse me, active might be a trail going through the site, taking advantage of that open space. Here's another example of the housing types that were written into the draft ordinance. Again, you have your bottom right traditional single family or duplex. This one is a little more dense, I guess, than low density, but provides a variety types of housing and shows a good mix of, all of these show a good mix of use types, whether it's single family, duplex, triplex, how those can all work together if you, when you develop more in a more intense residential fashion. And then again, some examples of what commercial development and mixed use developments may look like as far as the form. the building form and the site layouts, given the ordinance, the way it's written, you know, it would really look for the buildings to be pulled up to the street, on-street parking, parking in the rear. It does not get into too much detail as far as design guidelines, building materials, things along those lines. More just, again, that form pulled up to the street and landscaping, things like that. So that's a really kind of a quick, well, maybe it wasn't quick, overview of what we've done and how we got to where we are. I know in the packet, the draft ordinance was included. Excuse me. We have, I think that one included the smaller table. So we have been able to reformat that so that table is a little more legible when it comes to the uses. The check marks are those that will have P is permitted, outright permitted. The check mark would be some type of review, whether it's a use permit or some type of review beyond the standard, submit your building application and go. It's my understanding also the way that your code is online that people will be able to click a link and it will go out and open this separately. So again, it will be easier to use because it is quite extensive. This column, use limitations, most of them are as is permitted by the zoning code currently. There are a few uses that have some restrictions. The animal care facility, it must comply. You have some additional regulations, my understanding in a conversation with Jack when it comes to like kenneling and stuff. So you still have to comply with all of those. Indoor recreation and entertainment, in that definition, it includes a list of example uses. So it does exclude indoor firing ranges and sexually oriented businesses. When it comes to restaurant and fast food, it is excluding drive-throughs. And then we have when you get down here, this micro manufacturing. When you look at that definition, it talks about an average square footage, building footprint, gross floor area of a business, and what that might look like. So really those are your smaller, whether it's artisan and one person pottery shop or, some type of cabinet shoppers, as an example, not a large retailer or large wholesaler. With that, if there's any other questions specific that I'm not touching on that you want to know about, I'm happy to answer those.
If I may, Julie, we're currently just presenting the information, and then when the public hearing part's done, they'll open it up for
Okay.
their discussion, and so I'd ask that you hang on after we
Yep.
close the public hearing so they can ask those questions. If I could, I'd like to elaborate a couple of things just so you understand. In the packet, we provided you 2 additional documents. These documents are in the other document. They're just tiny, real hard to read. For ease of reading for the public online or you all, that's why we made them here. The text and all of that as it relates to what they say is what you guys talked about at the last meeting in August. And as Julie just mentioned, the formatting, how it's formatted to make it the most legible. Format doesn't really address, we're not going to be having you all address what the format is. We'll be having you address the meat and bones portion of it. So we may even still tweak the formatting between now and when it actually goes online, assuming that obviously you guys make a recommendation and the board does the same. And then assuming it goes online again, just so we understand, the first part of this ordinance that you have, the draft, lays out changes to our existing planned unit development ordinance so that it can incorporate overlay district developments like this one with the additional layers that this one includes. And that's in the very last page of that. And when it's online, the 169 South Employment District will be probably blue or underlined or something, and you can click on it directly, and then it will take you to these additional regulations, which are identified in the ordinance as Exhibit A. And you'll be able to go through each of those things, same concept, being able to go through those. And then the last thing mainly for the next part of the hearing or the process, the last part of the ordinance has Exhibit B on it. And those are certain findings that our code requires you to look at and make related to any change to the text of the code. You have to say what those reasons are. Based upon all of the public hearings and conversations with you all over the last year plus, I took the liberty to kind of put that into the shortest words possible so we could get that part of it done. Structurally, I think everything is where we need it, and that's all I have.
All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Next item is to approve the 169 South Employment Center overlay ordinance recommendation. I have a motion to approve that recommendation.
Make a motion to approve those recommendations.
Second.
Jack, anything further?
No, at this point, if you all have questions of Julie or Sean or me or Will, now would be the time to ask those. If you have any comments you want to make, just like in any other ordinance recommendation scenario on this is a textual change. It's not a zone district change, so it has a slightly different rules. That's why Exhibit B at the back of your document is there. If you don't think those are the right reasons for what we're doing, then you can, adjust those. And the last thing that we didn't put in the public hearing part of it, I didn't think it was necessary at that point because we were focused on the actual ordinance. But this is one of the highest priority items in our tasks for the comprehensive plan's 10-year plan was to get these overlays. This was the priority one. It took us a few years to get here, but we are now here with it. And I was surprised even back when the comprehensive planning process was going on at how much priority that the public put on this. These overlay districts and this one in particular, I wasn't anticipating Smithville going that way that quickly. And obviously you all, other than Terry, were directly involved with that process. And you were also aware of how significant, because of the times, we had a lot of online participation, Zoom meetings and everything with all the stakeholder groups on all 5 pillars. So I'm very pleased to say we're getting this close to getting one of the biggest tasks in that document done.
All right, so the only thing I just want to, double, confirm, I know Julie mentioned this, but as far as, what Doug's comments were about the traffic and the trees and stuff, all that will be handled when the actual site plans
Yes,
come in.
when this
So-
gets, someone's ready to develop, they have to do all of those things. Even if we didn't have the overlay, they would have to do the traffic studies, the stormwater studies, the layout, ultimately get us ready for a site plan. If they have a conceptual plan that lays out the building descriptions well enough, they would have to do that with or without this. This just gives, as Julie mentioned, the hybrid code overlay of both form and use requirements that are laid out in here so that we can focus it on those items. But yes, all of the actual development, that's the engineers like Sean get really down in the weeds on this stuff. And they will do the design work to make a presentation to the board, the commission, and then the board. So yes, it is something that is not only anticipated, it's going to be required later. We just don't know what it's going to look like yet.
Yeah, but I mean, even before we get to this, isn't one of the crossovers go away anyway with the J turns for Fairview Crossing.
Yeah, I mean, and all of that stuff,
Yeah.
by the time this goes, that'll all be in consideration by MoDOT at the time.
Yeah.
Because this is gonna have, even if all of this comes into access points onto MoDOT's right of way through either 136th or Amory's extension, either way, with no separate driveways, MoDOT will be directly involved because it all comes through them. And we want them to have it. They've got the highway engineers, to address the traffic safety, speed and all that other stuff. So they're gonna have to, work hard to get that through MoDOT whenever it comes. And I do want to clarify as well, that traffic stuff, it's based upon the counts of traffic they anticipate based upon the development. And that's what we have to wait for. We have to see how somebody wants to develop it. What's the density of housing? What's the type of, is it restaurants? Are they, all the different uses that this local overlay allows? Which ones are they? And then the traffic engineers have to take those into account when they come up with their plans.
Yeah, and because there's so much activity coming on both sides, I mean, are we probably maybe even thinking they'll probably lower the speed limit? Is that kind of what your thoughts are too?
Well, I will tell you, MoDOT has often told staff that getting a speed limit changed on a highway of this size is very difficult. It has to be approved through the through the Jefferson City office, the main highway transportation. It's not something that can be approved by the local offices. So if it is, it will take some work. And we can make our input in addition to whatever the developer's input is to answer those questions.
Everybody, you were about to say something?
I was just saying, what we've learned in the past from South Development that really storage units don't require a lot of MoDOT work, so. We don't want to see more, I mean, that's what I think the motivation was getting this done is.
Yeah.
Not seeing an explosion of storage units on the south end, so like Trimble,
Yeah. We've got plenty.
got plenty.
I think so. Any other comments, questions? We're good to vote as is, no changes?
I'm glad there's a minimum percentage of green space and
Mhm.
it's, and just like the stuff later on the agenda, we're looking at a plat that was done in 2006. It might be 20 years before anybody looks at developing this area, or 30 years. We don't know. But we don't want the wrong stuff there.
Sure, and I mean, this just sets out the outline for what we would allow in.
Yeah.
So. Just because we allow it doesn't mean it's going in there.
Right.
Yeah.
And until somebody comes with the plan, it's a moot point because it still has to go through the standard process, so.
Yep.
And I think we also mentioned, this helps any future development have an understanding of what we anticipate being there to help them even look at what they would consider putting in there. So
Right.
it all works together.
Right. We can ask for a certain type of development however we want, but if there aren't people that want to spend the money to build it the way, then it doesn't come. Generally, these overlay districts do not hinder it. They make it a lot easier for a developer to come in because now they understand, okay, this is what the city's looking for. And some of them can make the decision real quick. I don't like that building stuff, that type of stuff they're doing. I don't want to do it. They just move on. There are others that like this kind of stuff and focus on this kind of stuff. So they'll be the ones that will be interested in coming. Whether it comes in 2 years or 10 years, we don't know. It's going to be sometime because there's some infrastructure improvements that are still underway that need to be done. So as that occurs, we'll have access to it. Nothing prevents, if this is approved, ultimately by you and the board, nothing will prevent in 5 years or 10 years, if nothing's developed on it, to come back in and make changes to it.
Nope.
Okay. Terry,
Approved.
Mayor Boley,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
4-0.
This item will be on the agenda at next week's Board of Aldermen meeting. It will also be on the work session agenda. Actually, it'll be on the work session agenda and then it'll be read later. It won't be on next week's meeting for a vote. It'll be at the work session and Sean and Julie get to come in and make another presentation to the board and any public that comes to that meeting of how we got here. This is what it looks like, similar to what she did tonight and what she did in August as well. So next
It could be
Tuesday,
another year, Jack.
Hmm?
We could take another year to get it approved.
we'll see.
But when it goes to Alderman, it's gonna take 2 nights, right?
Yes.
What's the
two
work
separate-
session
Yeah.
first?
Work session followed by
If
2
there's no
separate.
changes, we could put the
Yeah.
ordinance on, but yeah, there'd be 2 readings on that because it's ordinance.
Yeah.
It's gonna be at least a month.
Yeah.
28 days at the earliest.
All right, moving along, we will go to item number 6, the public hearing for Smithville Marketplace replat lot 6A and 7. This time, we will open the public hearing. Jack?
Yes, you have in your packet the actual proposed final plat and staff report related to it. This is on the hill at the Marketplace Development. They have 2 interested parties. They're wanting to build up there. In order to do it, they needed to create lots of the right size and shape for those developers or those buildings. Part of the issue is they only had 2 lots, the giant one, and then one more by Burger King. They had to adjust those boundaries and create an extra lot in there. And that's what this document does. It's pretty straightforward. All the infrastructure's in place. They constructed the street that's private, all the sewers installed, all the water's installed. They've got power laid in, everything's ready to go. And if this gets through and approved by you and the board, this will ultimately authorize the final sale, and we would anticipate the 2 businesses submitting their construction plans with a truncated site plan that's been approved. I haven't seen it yet, but it's been approved by the conceptual plan people that handled it, that it meets the intent of their development. And then we go through, do a separate staff review to make sure that the lighting, the shielding of the trash dumpsters, the landscaping, all that meets the code minimums. And then if that's the case, they will be issued a building permit to start construction.
Any other comments?
No.
All right, we'll close this public hearing. Next item will be to approve the adjustment to Smithville Marketplace replat of lots 6A and 6-7. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Jack, you wanna add anything else?
Yeah, if approved, this will go as a final plat. It'll go as a resolution at next week's meeting to the Board of Aldermen for no public hearing, but another meeting.
Is there any public comment? All right, Jack, I do have a question. I don't know, this might be something that folks would want to hear. What does this do to the TIF? Does it impact the TIF at any?
Well, from the standpoint that any additional retail sales tax will go into the TIF to pay it off quicker. And since this is the old TIF, there are several taxes that have passed since then, our capital improvement sales tax, the parks sales tax, and now the law enforcement sales tax won't be divided like the other taxes were for these 2 lots. It just starts throwing in more money into the payoff of that TIF so that their investment returns are met in accordance with that TIF agreement.
Any other questions? Let's vote.
Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Mayor Boley. 4-0.
Jackie said that'll go on next week's.
Yes, it will go on next Tuesday's Board of Aldermen as a resolution, one reading.
All right, next item will be to the public hearing, River Place rezoning from R1B to R1D and R2. This time the public hearing is now open. Jack, I'll let you first.
Sure. You've got the packet, all of the items that are in it, including the typographical errors that have been made, some of which have already been corrected. Brandy went through and corrected them. We had some comments on stuff that we didn't catch. We had to drink it through a fire hose on the overlay, and to be quite frank, I just was remiss in not catching a couple of minor errors in the documents. The documents you have before you on your desk have those typographical errors corrected at this point. So you will have these documents as a part of your public hearing review for the next part of this. And it includes, to clarify, this plat is merely for illustrative purposes. It shows either a number or a number and D on it. And the Ds are the duplexes, and the numbers alone would be the single-family detached housing locations, so that you understand where the zoning would go if it's approved. And the applicant, the man who designed this, is here as well, if he wants to make a presentation. Otherwise, he'll be here to answer questions at the next part.
Who's the applicant? Oh, would you like to? Is it?
Hey, Brandy, can you toss me a pen?
Grab a second.
If you can please start with your name and address, please, for the record.
Robert Parks with Weiskirk and Parks Engineers, 111 North Main, Independence. And yeah, we've been working with the developer on this for a while, getting it laid out. Unfortunately, he's out of the country right now and couldn't be here, so. And I'll be available for any questions.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and we got some cards.
John Lizer.
All right, and just a reminder, we have three minutes per comment, and if you please state your name and your address, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
it's John Lizer, 211 KK Highway. I think a lot of us here thought we would actually get a kind of an information briefing on what it is. It's kind of hard to ask some of the questions when we don't exactly know what's going in. And I know Jack has already mentioned the travel study is still delaying items 10 and 11 or 9 and 10 or whatever it was. But needless to say, impacts to the traffic are a major concern. We're wondering if anything will be done to improve or modify KK Highway. I'm sure MoDOT has to weigh in on that. Access to 169, especially like the turn lanes or any kind of additional shoulders. Trying to get on 169 right now during busy time is already a hazard, especially if you get somebody that's trying to turn left going north on 169. If they stop too far back, you can't get around them to go ahead and peel off to the right. And that would cause all the traffic to back up really quickly to the blind corner there, especially with the addition of these additional houses that'll be proposed. Curious about what the utility impacts would be, more specifically like the water pressure. I know that was an issue when Forest Oaks was developed with a lot of low pressure for the water. Same thing would probably go along with the sewer. Previous 2006 proposal had the 166 lots. I know this is about the zoning. It was R1 or R1B then. But the new proposal, it sounds like while maintaining the 166 lots, it would still increase the dwellings up to 200. That probably takes consideration for the duplexes. But again, the numbers there is what's kind of scaring everybody. Other than that, some of my other questions were, one last question. I know when I built my house back in the 07, 08 time period, I was told by the city basically that I had 75 feet of frontage was a requirement. Just curious whether or not that's a requirement for this proposal. Just because from what I could tell on the map, it looks like they're crunched in there pretty tight. So that's all I've got until we get the MoDOT thing. Last question would be, will, at any time, does the city do a brief to the public on what this proposal is, like from the builder or something? Yeah. Thank you.
To clarify that procedural issue, yes, there will be. It'll be a public hearing. If we get the MoDOT paperwork, it will be next month. Same place, we'll be right here. That's when the traffic study will be released. The stormwater information, storm studies will be released. They'll be on the city website as well. So you'll be able to see all that ahead of time. And then the applicant, how they want to respond to your questions.
Well, let's try to get through the
Yeah.
comments first, and then we'll do the questions.
Randa Blakesley.
Hi there, I'm Randa Blakesley and I live at 201 County Road KK. And again, I didn't realize that we needed to wait on traffic, but that would be my main concern. I live there. I'm the house that is trying to pull out with the blind corner behind me. So the way that I pull out of my driveway, I'm already having to turn around to look behind me for the blind corner of who's coming around. And with these dwellings going in, if there's 3 cars per home with 200 places, that's a lot more cars coming around that corner first thing in the morning at a dangerous time. And having young children in my home, I'm also concerned about the day they become drivers. And if we can proactively think this through before they're on the roadway, that would be much appreciated. 169 as well in the morning is quite chaotic, especially with the daycare there. They put in a turn lane to come onto KK, but not a turn lane to go into a step above daycare. So there's often a car waiting there to turn left because northbound traffic and people are passing on the shoulder, which again is a concern, especially with small children in the vehicles that are waiting to enter that daycare. It just concerns me that there's gonna be that many more people traveling through there, as well as mail and how that would affect our mail. Since I am on the blind corner, my mailbox is up around in between my neighbor's mailbox and my home. So I drive up and use their driveway. So it's a little bit clearer so that you can see cars coming, so that if you need to, you can pop in the ditch so that you don't take a car to the back. So if we could talk about how that would affect the mail system and how we get our mail safely, where we're not having to be concerned about being struck by a vehicle, that would be greatly appreciated. I also wonder about the school and how it'll affect a higher population coming into Maple and how that'll go. I know we passed some levies on the school front and change some things there, but just the numbers and how that would affect. And I'm sure maybe there would be a school district conversation that would need to be had there, but I'm just curious how the numbers look and how that would affect our schools. Those are just some of my concerns that I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly Brown.
My name's Kelly Brown and I own the property at 201 KK Highway where my daughter lives. I lived there for 21 years prior to getting married, so I know what that blind corner is like, and that is so scary. You're talking about adding all that. That's the main, I mean, we can't stop the development of the land and so forth. I understand that, but when it comes to a point where it could be reckless and someone could really get hurt, that is a super big concern. And so when they do the study, are they going to study the road both ways on both sides of it to see how many are going out and how many are coming in? Those would be some of the things that, you know, concern me. Also the schools, I thought about that, and the sewer. How's the sewer going to work? That's the other thing, you know, with all the houses you're bringing in there. It's just a real concern. So, and we don't understand it all because we haven't been told a whole lot about it. So, and my other concern was, you know, they talked about in the beginning, it was just going to be single family home dwellings. And now they're adding duplexes. So I don't really know, other than crunching them in. I mean, obviously it's going to make it more dense, more money, but I just didn't know why that was changed or what they thought about that. So, but that's really all I have. The main thing is the traffic. That's really scary to me. So, because I know now when you go to pull out of her driveway, like you said, you're on that blind corner, you can't hardly see. And then if you've got people pulling in out of the driveway across from where she lives, you know, that's on the blind corner, people coming around. I'm just afraid there's going to be something really bad happen there if we leave it the way it is now. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Engel.
I go by Bob Angle. My wife and I have lived there for 4 years at 209 County Road KK. And when we bought the property, we realized the land across the road would be be developed. And we knew of the plat to make it single family homes. And I'm surprised to see that you're now dividing it in two areas. One is, both are very dense housing. One has all duplexes and the other one has all single family units.
Yeah.
Turn yours off.
You have
Okay.
a very
Yeah,
booming
it's-
voice. Step away from the mic a little bit.
Okay. Sorry if I caused that problem. I figure in the R2, 50 duplexes will be a total of 100 units. And if you conservatively figure 2 cars per unit, that will be 200 cars in that part of the development. I think that's really conservative count of cars. And in the R1D, the single family part of that, I may have those backwards, I'm not sure, but anyhow, in the single family part of that, there's 116 lots, and if you houses, and if you figure again 2 vehicles, just 2 vehicles per house, you got another 232 for a total car count in that area, 432 cars. And I think that's very conservative. That doesn't take into consideration school buses, delivery vehicles, visitors. You know, some residents, my experience has been, will have a couple kids and they'll both have a car. So I think the car count's very high. Total would be 432 vehicles at least. KK Highway, it has no shoulders. Your present police department, I've contacted them 4 times about the speeders. Twice I've talked to police chief. They say they can't control traffic on that because it has no place to shoot radar and no shoulders to pull somebody over on. I question, I've never seen in 4 years anybody try to control the traffic, and it's quite fast out there at times. Anybody that lives there will tell you that. Intersection of KK and 169 has been talked about already, but it's a major bottleneck now in the mornings and evenings, and it'll be even worse when this goes in. And you've answered my question of the comprehensive study. My main objection is the denseness, is the change to the present zoning there, which is I would be fine if your original zoning of this property was adhered to. I see no reason to put the duplexes up there, which could greatly increase the density, and I see no reason to put the single family reduce the size of the lots of the single family dwellings.
That's 3 minutes. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, I got.
Well, I actually gave a little bit more too for that.
Well, in short, my main concern is KK can't handle this. The duplexes don't belong here. All the neighbors I've talked to that live on the east side of the road object to it. And again, I want to state, I'm not here opposing the development of this property. I realized that when I bought here. It's just that you're changing the zoning, and I don't think that's suitable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Wolken.
Good evening, Jeff Wolken. My wife and I live at 207 County Road KK. We actually bought the property approximately a year ago, under the impression that it would someday be developed. But I also would like to contest the multifamily dwellings that are being established or proposed to be established there. We on the map there, you can see our house sits directly across from the intersection that's being proposed. And it is at the bottom of a hill, approximately 200 yards to the north, and about 200 yards to the south is the blind corner that we're referring to. So as you pull out of our driveway, if you don't look 5 times each direction, you might get cleaned up on the turnpike out there. Biggest issue also traffic. I work for a developer as well. Building data centers, we have to establish infrastructure all the time before we can even start our build. So I deal with MoDOT on a regular day basis. We're the people responsible for all of the traffic on 169 right now. Currently, I apologize for that. But as you can tell, we have to add J-turns, turning lanes, acceleration lanes, deceleration lanes, all of that before any of this building can actually take place. And I haven't seen any of those proposed in the tiny pamphlet that was not delivered in my mailbox, but my neighbors were kind enough to share with me. Also, it's a state ran highway. So snow removal last year when it was 12, 16 inches out there, didn't get removed for about 3 days. So if there are, what Bob says, or 400 and some cars, 432 cars stuck in a subdivision, unable to get out onto KK Highway, what's that gonna look like? Also, the maintenance of the road. Bob's lived there for 4 years. Randy's lived there for his entire life. But there's still the potholes from when Randy was a toddler. So they'll swallow a Kia, and what are all of the people that are supposed to be moving in here going to think of that? So really, I don't have an opposition to developing it. Like I said, but I don't think that the density should be, I guess, what it's proposed to be. I'm not in favor of the multifamily dwellings, but I do appreciate my roughly 2 minutes and 30 seconds worth of your time. Nailed it.
You did. Randy Smith.
I'm Randy Smith. I live at 203 KK Highway. Most everybody's complaints have been because of the traffic and everything of this, which I amen on that. One thing I wanted to know about this too is if this is actually going to be affected with this, will MoDOT stay in control of KK Highway as far as the maintenance and stuff goes? If not, it could be like maybe on F Highway where the city took over the maintenance of the stretch of F Highway to where they ended up renaming it to where everybody had to start changing their legal documents in their possession, like credit cards, deeds, driver's license, and other documents. I don't think that's right for us to have to do. Will there be sidewalks, as far as this goes, since they've already covered the traffic and everything, will there be sidewalks put in across for the foot traffic? How much area will they cover? Will they go through all the subdivisions, or are they gonna go all the way up to 169 too? I don't know how that would be. Will there be sufficient lighting installed for night traffic in this area? Stated there are no shoulders in KK at this time. As for the subdivision itself and developer and associates, are the associates solely mandated to pay for the installation of all utilities and services and any other costs in this venture, so that no inherent costs go to the taxpayers? As for the dwellings that are slated to be constructed, are these going to be single-family dwellings, multiple family dwellings, townhouse dwellings? Are they going to be rentals, or are they going to be leased? Also this subdivision coming in and you're wanting to rezone from what it is now as a more dense arrangement with multifamily dwellings instead of just single family dwellings, that can devalue the properties of the existing home and landowners and have a detrimental effect on them. But I see in your Smithfield development report that there won't be a disproportionate great loss to propriety of owners in the area relative to public gain. Who determines this so-called public gain, and how is it determined to a justified decision? In fact, if there is a problem in that area, who oversees this decision and rules on this? I do not feel the rezoning for these plats is justified considering the amount of the aforementioned congestion problems that were previously addressed. Then we want to know how it affects the school system, which Randall addressed that already. So I would just want to know what the plans were going to be on it. I see that your survey has not been completed. Also, since there's so many speeders out there too, we'd have the police patrols and radar set up in the area. But evidently we won't be doing that until we know what was going to be going on. So I guess that for that now, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Cheyenne Smith.
Hello, my name is Cheyenne Smith. I live at 203 County Road KK. Before I ask my question, I just want to say that I have lived here in Smithville my entire life. I just graduated Smithville in 2023. I am utterly disappointed in how the city has handled the development around this city, and how much we've developed the city. As someone who knew every single person in their grade when they started to not knowing most of the names that we graduated with. Smithville was once known as a farm town, and that is no longer the case. And to piggyback on the mailbox thing, most of these people that have spoke on this is my family. My cousin lives at 201. When I leave her house, I turn into the opposite lane of KK because it is so dangerous to turn around to look back. And I don't have children, but she has two small children. That's incredibly dangerous as it is. People go upwards of probably 60 miles per hour around that corner. I know that sounds ridiculous, but their tires squeal. It's insane. To piggyback off Jeff with the snow removal, last year when that happened, there was one lane that had been tracked around the corner. There was not two lanes at that point. When you add that many people going and we have tracked down one lane because the snow removal has not happened, again, you're gonna have a head-on collision at that point. And again, with the mailboxes, the only reason when you cross the street for your mailbox, you just have to hope that you can hear the traffic coming and then hope you can get out of the way in time. People do not slow down. They do not care. And again, with the added traffic, that's a huge concern. Especially for a lot of the people are older that live on the road and are slower to get out of the way. No offense. Again, so this has been years ago, but my dad tried to build on our land that we have. We were told that we could only put one house there because of the road frontage. I understand the bridge is in front of our property. I understand that. However, though, I really just don't understand how that's fair. That we have owned this, and I'll be the third generation that owns this land. I can only put one house on there, but you can go across the street and cram houses in, run right after another, and they don't have 75 foot of road frontage. So I'm just not really understanding that. Let me make sure I got everything. Oh, again, I know this is MoDOT, but my house and specifically, you cannot get down all the way to the road with a lawnmower. It is too steep to do so. MoDOT comes maybe once a year to mow that. So for me, I am in a small car. I have to lean forward to look around. That's not going to work with that much traffic. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Brooke French.
Yeah, my name is Brooke French. I live at 17990 County Line Road. I'm speaking on behalf of my family because we own the farmland that is right north of this property that's going to be developed. We were told by someone that it's run that farmland that it is known to flood in the northwest corner. And we have concerns about runoff on our property. And we hope that is addressed. I assume with the sewer studies and stuff that will be addressed, but that is a concern of ours. We do not want the runoff on our property. The second thing is we are concerned about fencing. We want to make sure that there is proper fencing around this new development that does not affect our farm. We have concerns about the traffic as well, but those have been well addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Go ahead and close the public comment. And we will move to item number 9 to approve rezone 210 KK Highway from R1B to R1D and R2. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Jack, heard a lot of things here. So
Yeah.
Try
yeah.
to,
And some of them I can answer, some of them I can tell everyone when we're gonna have an answer and how that answer will work. As it relates to traffic, I wanted to clarify, and I think Mr. Booming voice, Bob Angle, I think, yes. You had mentioned, so I think you were the one that mentioned specifically the number of cars. They don't look at it at the number of cars, they look at the number of trips a car makes in a day. Because one car is one thing, but one car making 10 trips a day is a whole different scenario. So they want to know the trip count. That's how they calculate it. There are formulas they use to calculate those trip counts based upon if it's a single family detached house, the calculation is 10 trips a day. So that's going to work and coming home. If there's 2 people, husband, wife, both of them, that's 4. And then there's grocery store, something else, kids. So that they average those at 10. If it's an attached duplex, it's about 9.4. So it's less traffic. These aren't my numbers, by the way. These are the traffic engineers' numbers. So they come up with these numbers. There has been a study completed, but it has not been reviewed by MoDOT, who has full authority over all of it. So whatever the recommendations in that report are, it's subject to MoDOT saying wrong, or that's enough, or no, we need more. We don't know what they're going to be until MoDOT actually provides Bob and I that information. And Bob didn't even he hired a specialty engineer to do the traffic. So he isn't even directly involved with the MoDOT. He's just helping me trying to get MoDOT to get everybody an answer. As it relates to the general process on the development side, because this is just zoning, but on the development side, that's where the traffic comes in. We'll talk about it. They have to have a study. It's been reviewed by our engineers. It's been reviewed by MoDOT engineers. There will be recommendations in it. If MoDOT makes changes, that trip or that traffic impact report will have to be amended to take into account whatever MoDOT wants. They'll want it to be adjusted so that they can finally approve it. We don't know how long that process will take. We thought it would be 60 days, and we're at day 58 and it still hadn't happened. So, the traffic is everyone's big concern, and how that process works. There's been a couple of comments about stormwater. Again, that would be addressed, unfortunately, in the yellow. We can't really address it until we get the MoDOT stuff, because MoDOT could theoretically cause a design change. And if there's a design change, then all those studies have to be reevaluated, because it may change where the lots are, where the access points are, and how that water drains. We won't know again until we get MoDOT's report. So the traffic and storm are handled through studies. And then whatever improvements are required, our code on the subdivision side requires developers to install off-site improvements, whatever they may be. In this case, it'd be improvements to the state highway. For example, I'll give you an example. There's now a right turn lane that was constructed in 2014 on North 169 for 180th Street. That was a traffic study requirement for a development called Greyhawk, about a 3/4 mile down. They had to install that one at a certain level of houses. So there's other ones, more improvements up north that'll be required. Same concept, it's a development agreement. This, to clarify, is a rezoning request, and it solely addresses the items. I forget which gentleman, you all had similar comments, but it's the 8 items in that staff report, and then the findings of fact. those are what they are looking at to evaluate whether or not the zoning is appropriate for this land. And I think I mentioned it during the overlay process, but I will mention it again here, Mr. Chairman. The development rules changed after the comprehensive plan. There was a specific direction in there by the public to create more dense lots, give that as an option, because it saves everybody money. If we've got 100 people paying for the sewer or the water or the street repair versus 75, everybody's is cheaper, especially if they're on the same amount of water, sewer, and street. So that is part of the rezoning aspect of it. And the staff or the findings of fact presume all of the utility issues are paid for by the developer or through an agreement. So in this case, the city has been working on an interceptor sewer project that goes from the treatment plant on the south side of the river, right up through this property, right along the river, all the way up, and it will go to just the north side of KK in phase one. That's supposed to start next year. So this development, if approved, can't even start ground until that sewer's done because it's gravity and it'll all drain into it. Currently, all the houses on the other side of the street are on force main that come down and connect into the line. So their head pressure will almost go away when that line gets across because the interceptor project phase one will stop at that point where the KK line connects into the existing line. So all those obligations are the developers to do any improvements, whether they're road, sewer, or water. Water was mentioned as well. And there's a study that has to be done when it comes to the design of the actual water system. That happens only after a subdivision would be approved. They're expensive, so if they don't get approved, they're not gonna do all those extra studies. So that's the process we're dealing with here. I think that answers most of those questions. Most of it is sitting, waiting for the MoDOT reaction to the staff or the traffic report, because it could kick everything around. We just don't know.
But the only thing I didn't hear you respond to, Jack, was a couple people asked about maintenance of KK. Currently, it's county, I believe.
No,
State.
Yeah, it's still state.
State.
In our local history, when more traffic is added to a road for MoDOT to handle, it goes up their priority list. The lower the traffic, the least likely they are to do it. So more traffic would actually likely speed that up. Whether or not when our city trucks are going to the area to plow this subdivision in the future, if it comes in, whether they drop the blade to clear off some of it or not, I can't tell you. They do it, and sometimes they don't.
The direction they've been giving is they drop the blade now.
Okay.
So
So at least to the entrances of the area that they're plowing, they will be done. Best case scenario, it would be up to Thomas Lane. Because then they go up Thomas Lane and they've got plowing up there that they do. That's the best case.
To Whiskey Ridge, right? And the 100
It comes around usually the other direction.
Right now it does.
Yeah.
But if we were doing this one and
Yeah.
On the traffic study, I know that you said it's already been in the works. There was a lot of concern about KK and 169. Do you know if that was included in the traffic study?
Absolutely, all of it is.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
To be
since-
quite frank, that's the biggest concern because that's the confluence of two of the biggest traffic areas in the city. Obviously, further south, we got more, but that's two of the bigger areas. The other one is obviously that blind curve. So.
And if I could, I'd like to answer one of the questions that I noted here a couple of times was on the frontage. What that is, that's all driven by the actual zoning. Like here where you see this R2 or R1D, that frontage was set smaller because they're smaller lots. R1B, that's where it's the 75.
Right.
So that's your difference there when you're seeing 50 versus 75. It's all tied to what zoning that is.
And,
and
on these, and that's the thing I was looking at too, on these lots, if they're over 100-foot frontage and they want to do a lot split and rezone it, they could possibly get 2 houses in there, right?
right, theoretically, yeah, if they split it. The other aspect of it is, and I mentioned it during my portion of this, Alderman Wilson, is the comp plan called for it, and the board and this commission years, it was in 2021, actually, one of the first things we did was address the size of lot requirements, which was the lot frontage. Several people mentioned 75 feet. That's what we only had one standard, is either 75 feet or 100, and that's all you could build residential on. That has relaxed. We now have 100, 75, 60, and 50 as the options for R1 zones, so they can do it in that fashion. And that would be available for anybody if they wanted to, if they were proposing to divide their property, they would likely want to rezone it so that they could get into that district that would allow. Mailboxes are going to be addressed by, unfortunately, the USPS. We don't get much say on that. I will tell you that this development will be 100% covered with those boxes, the big centers.
Cluster boxes.
The cluster boxes.
Can we, Jack, is it something we could talk to them about doing like we did on Spellman, where we made the pull off and moved the boxes to a cluster box?
And that would be, to be quite frank, I don't know that that would be the best result. I think the best result for everyone would be that there be a cluster box solely for these folks.
That's what I'm saying.
Right in the entrance.
Yeah.
By the other ones, so that it's away from the traffic of 169 or of KK, because that's the problem. You pull somebody off to get to that box, that means they got to open their door on the traffic
Right.
side. So if we get it off into one of these roads, because they're going to have areas that'll have to be approved for their mailbox areas. They'll have to be far enough back so that if cars are coming in, they're not blocking traffic back out onto KK, because we want every car that gets off of KK to get off quickly, be gone, move, and don't block anybody else.
Yeah, I think that would be
Yeah.
something to look at, because that's what the problem we had on Old F Highway was
Yeah.
mailboxes that were
Yep.
people standing in the street.
Well, and that one was also because we had a road with 30 foot of right of way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was tiny.
The other thing that hasn't really been addressed, but, and I won't speak for the school district, but I meet with the superintendent regularly. They are asking me when this is going to be done often, because they are behind on population at the district.
Yeah.
So this is one they've asked about many, many times.
Yeah.
In my conversations with them, as population of the district goes down, then they also lose funding from the state and things like that. So they want increase.
Our school population, I think, is back to 16, 17 levels. It's dropped.
Yeah. And that's kind of the demographic changes of our population. The young families with kids, not as many of them here as they grow up and graduate high school. Some of them stay, a lot of them don't. So as that change occurs, it's causing some of our numbers at the school district. I know it's been over 10 years, they've been concerned about the numbers at the schools going down. So, and it's all because of funding. Yeah. More kids mean more schoolrooms, classrooms and stuff, but it also means less money to operate when they have fewer children.
You did make a comment about the builders with the sewer, and you said that they would have to take care of, or the utilities in general, but they would have to take care of that, pass that on to purchasing. Then you said, or the agreement. What's the agreement? My concern is that we don't want to have to pay for.
You won't be. We have a code provision specifically prohibiting developers to pass those costs on to the general public. Developers have to carry their own water. And, well, yeah, that's why they have to carry their load. And that includes building off-site stuff if necessary.
Like a pump station.
Yeah, it didn't used to be the policy in Smithville oftentimes. So Those things got kicked down the road. And trying to set 600 priorities instead of 200 makes it, the money gets a little thinner. So
Will we be notified of future meetings?
you will get a certified letter just like this one.
Did they approve the zoning of this tonight? I recommended.
Not yet, we haven't.
Yeah, they haven't voted.
We haven't voted yet.
Okay, I'm a little hard of hearing.
Yeah, they're still in the discussion phase of that, whether they're gonna vote yes or no, we'll find out. And then, no matter how they vote, yes or no, it goes to the board, and the board then takes another bite of the apple. Are they gonna? Yes, when we're done, we'll tell you it's gonna happen next week, and then 2 weeks after that.
Well, I do have a question
I'd want to see what you.
for the developer. Cause I heard, Mr. Engel and Mr. Walken both mention, this was initially zoned for single family and now they want to change it to. So what was the reasoning behind that change?
My understanding was it's the density. There's a pool and clubhouse site on this, and to make their numbers work, they need to have so many households.
They didn't hear you, so.
I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a site on here for a pool and a clubhouse at some point.
And you had to increase the numbers to make that work.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
like any amenity in a new subdivision, if you don't have enough homes to cover the cost, then it doesn't work.
Will the duplexes and the single family housing have access to that clubhouse
Sure.
and pool?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that?
I don't think that's a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the lake's 7 minutes away.
All right, folks, we gotta get back to this discussion here. Is there any other
I don't have any other questions.
comments? Melissa, you got anything? Okay, so I mean, I'll just say, yeah, I mean, I am very interested in what this traffic study looks like because this is very concerning.
Yes, it's
So,
a huge thing.
yeah.
To be quite frank, it was last week when I said, Bob, without that, we've got to pull this portion of it for sure. That's got to be pulled because I can't make a recommendation to you with anything if I don't know what that is. And if MoDOT says they got to put in a bunch of turn lanes, they got to reevaluate how that works for their layout. Because this one has 2 entrances, and I think the old one only had 1 access point onto KK. So modern standards require a development.
Well, yeah, I mean, depending on the MoDOT, the whole entryway could change. They could lose building plots.
We just have to wait and see what MoDOT says. Right.
So Jack, I got a question because I don't see it on here. I know the sidewalks are on here, but we also have the land developing off Second Creek that has some trail going north along the river. Does this have space to connect that in to take the pedestrian traffic down to Second Creek eventually?
Well, ultimately it'd require a bridge to get there,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, they're gonna have, their bottom land is all open. There have been discussions, at least on their side, as to whether it could become a city park or it, and a lot of it unfortunately is floodway. So with floodway, you can't really do much in it. Floodplain, as long as you're not building structures, if you're building ball fields or something, it's okay. But when you're in a floodway, that gets, when the river loses out of its banks, it gets wet every time. And everything in the river lays out on there. If you remember the big flood, not big flood, the backup we had several years ago where all the pumpkins from Platte County ended up over here. That's what so putting it out there in that area becomes problematic.
But they will have to build sidewalks all the way up to KK at the minimum.
Yep, yes. And MoDOT is the one that, again, controls that. My guess is getting them up to 169 is not something they're going to be interested in. But we'll see. That's part of their improvement process they'll review. There will be sidewalks throughout this entire thing, though. both sides of the road.
I assume they'll have to replace the bridge too.
We'll wait and see what MoDOT says. Unfortunately, that's where we're at.
All right, does anyone is there any objections to voting on this as a whole, these findings, or do we want to break apart any of this? Okay, final opportunity to speak.
Like just leave it as a whole.
Okay, vote.
Okay. John,
Yes.
Mayor Boltley,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
4-0.
Question earlier by Mr. Engel was, when are you gonna know about this or you get notice? Next week, next Tuesday, same time, 7 PM here. The first reading of an ordinance approving a zoning change will be on their agenda for the Board of Aldermen. You'll be able to provide comment at that time as well. We won't be talking about traffic any more than what we have here because we still don't have that MoDOT report. That'll come if the zoning's changed, then when they start the subdivision process where the stormwater and all those studies get presented. So we're waiting on that, but that first reading will be next week. Second reading, if it's approved, would be 2 weeks. No, it would be the first Tuesday of the next month. I don't know if that's 2 weeks or 3.
21st, it's 2 weeks. It'd be the 4th.
It'd be the 21st would be the first reading. If it passes, then it would go for second reading on November 4th. That's just the zoning. If we get the MoDOT stuff, it will be on the agenda for November 11th here, and you'll get another letter.
Need to be legible.
Well, they're gonna be this, what you're going.
Elderly people in my community.
Yeah, yeah, the notice is going to be, there's gonna be a public hearing the Thursday before. It will go up on the city website and you can look at there, print it out. And when the subdivision goes as well, we have a separate section of additional documents and we'll have the traffic study and the stormwater study will be available for you all to review.
Voting for the resolution for the rezoning next week then?
That's when it goes to the board. The board will,
That's done with that as far as it's done there?
well, once the zoning is in place, the subdivision can come. If the board doesn't approve the zoning, then the subdivision layout would have to change or whatever.
It'll be the 21st and then the second reading will be November 4th.
If they haven't seen the traffic zoning or the traffic report and everything, how they know it's gonna be okay?
Well, because the traffic study is based upon the subdivision, not the zoning. So when that occurs, that'll go to the planning commission. We'll have another hearing like this. The traffic will be the main issue, I'm sure. And we'll address it at that point. And this body will then make a recommendation to thumbs up, thumbs down, changes, whatever at that time, and it'll go to the board after that. So early in December would be absolutely the fastest it could get to final approval by the Board of Aldermen.
If I understand correctly, that's the part that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, this part is solely for the R1B designation and R2.
Yeah, this is just a zoning part, nothing
Yeah.
else.
With single family homes and.
The duplex.
The duplexes, yeah. Chairman, that's, I think, all the questions.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Don't move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
We're adjourned.
we're adjourned.
These schools have to come back and.